Welcome to Cinema Discussions. Today we are discussing Sully. My name is John. I am joined by Vaughan.
Senior New York disaster correspondent.
Yes. As you know, the scale of different disasters here and there. This is a 2016 biographical drama film directed and co-produced by Clint Eastwood, starring Tom Hanks as Captain Chelsea Sully Sullenberger.
Largely biographical.
So this is based on true events, but these true events happened in 2009.
Yeah, not that long ago.
It's been 7 years. So that means if there's like a 17-year-old kid who's going out to see this movie, then he was 10 when it happened.
He probably wouldn't remember it.
Yeah, he wasn't paying attention to the news. So this could all be new to him. He doesn't know how this is going to end. So because of that, we're not going to spoil any of the true events that happened in this movie.
Yeah.
The not so true events that happened in this movie.
There are kids in high school who weren't born when 9/11 happened.
Exactly. They don't know how World Trade Center is going to end.
Yeah.
They're just going in for people were surprised at Titanic. So, all right. So before we get into spoilers, how would you recommend this
recommendations?
movie?
You know what? I ended up enjoying this more than I thought I would.
Yeah, you weren't looking forward to it going into it, I remember.
Because this movie, along with the one about Edward Snowden that is due to come out soon.
Snowden.
Like, if you're watching this close to the day we post it,
could already be out if you're watching.
Yeah. Time travel.
Yes.
Both of them dealing with things that have happened in recent memory for most of us.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a biopic of such recent time. Yeah. This one specifically, I'll get into that later. But it's
a biopic about people who are still alive. Mm-hmm. Still very much alive. Yeah. In the case of the Snowden movie that's coming out, about a situation with a guy who is that is still ongoing.
Yeah, the movie doesn't have an end yet. This one, at least has an end.
So that's kind of for more about Snowden than this one.
Yeah.
My main hesitation about it is when you're trying to make real life events fit into the 3-act narrative.
Yes. Yeah. That is a tough thing to do, but I think in the terms of, so not in terms of biography, but in terms of making a movie, I think this succeeded.
A dramatic movie, yeah.
Yeah, this succeeded in making a dramatic movie with good 3-act structure. It had the tension throughout, and it paid off exactly what I would want out of a movie about this incident. And it's not a documentary, but it's
it's not a traditional documentary.
This is I think a great thing that sticks largely close to the actual events,
which are pretty interesting in and of themselves.
Yeah. So
it's got that going for it.
Yeah. So I think I definitely recommend this compared to most movies that are out right now. I think this is a good solid
there's like nothing out right now.
There's a lot of bad stuff out. So I think it's a good solid choice. I'll say too, I saw this in IMAX. I was very happy that it was actually in the IMAX aspect ratio. Not that most scenes needed it, but there's so many where you're paying for IMAX and it's just a standard widescreen on a bigger screen. So I like that. I appreciate that with it. I was a little apprehensive of Clint Eastwood as the director. I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but he's not really my favorite, but I think he does a great job with this one. Tom Hanks, he does a good job with this one. He's
pretty much Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I mean, he's well cast, I should say.
Yeah.
Because, Tom Hanks in every movie, he's Tom Hanks, but he's varying degrees of Tom Hanks, and this is the appropriate Tom Hanks for this role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like George Clooney is George Clooney in every role, but if you cast him in this one, it's not going to work. But Tom Hanks in this one, it works.
Aaron Eckhart, pretty well cast also.
Yeah, also a great job in this one. I recommend this one.
I give it a solid recommendation.
Okay, so let's get into this. Spoiler alert. Yeah, and so I'll say when this movie, when the incident happened in 2009, I was finishing up college, and in our playwriting class, we would bring in each week a current event articles, things that are going on that you think would maybe be interesting fodder for a script. And when this incident happened, we were talking about it, but like this is a movie. This is insane. Because, I mean, 8 years earlier, you have a story with planes that is unbelievable in a tragic sense.
Yeah.
There's a great line in the movie saying, it's been a while since we've had good news out of New York, let alone involving a plane.
Oh, yeah.
We've now witnessed the worst that can happen in air collisions and stuff with, the 3,000 lives lost in 9/11. So to hear this story and to see, okay, they've multiple bird strikes, 2 engines lost over New York, this plane going towards the buildings, and he lands it safely on the Hudson River with everyone surviving. And it's like, what? Who does this? And Sully immediately becomes a national hero. And nobody questioning anything on it, which is where they make up most of the drama for this movie.
They pull up a lot of the drama from the NTSB and FAA investigation.
Which, you're going to have investigations because you have to have it. But it seemed, from all accounts that I've heard, the SUV,
NTSB,
and the investigations from the FAA, they're essentially like, all right, look over things. Yeah, looks about right. You did a great job. Good job. Like that was mostly. There wasn't the. We don't know about this. We're gonna have to see this. Yeah, you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, in the real story, I don't think there was quite that much of we think you could have gotten back to LaGuardia.
Yeah, I mean they got to test it. But,
you're expected to run through these like really cool simulators.
I've flown in one of those simulators. I've flown one of those simulators before.
Yeah,
really cool.
They are as
it's the best arcade game ever.
They are as true to life as you can get,
and super hard to fly.
Well, yeah. At
least I was a kid when I did it, but that was like, oh my god, this is
but I would like somebody to research this and see just how closely this correlates to like the actual testimony of this investigation. That was one of my hesitations too.
But I mean, for me as a movie, it was definitely interesting. But in real life, and I like that even still they made a lot of it in Sully's head about when he's the news report saying that he made the wrong decision, and then you see that that's a dream. And
so he's racked with this self-doubt throughout the whole thing.
I at least appreciate that, because when I saw that clip, I'm like, this has to be a dream sequence, because I remember the news at that time, and nobody
would say that.
Nobody was questioning him. There's not a single news report of like, I don't know about this guy.
And like this Sully guy.
Well, did you ever see the movie Flight? It came out a couple of years ago. So that was similar. It was about this story, but like in the not having the rights to this story kind of way.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, it's about a guy who does a crazy maneuver with a plane to save a bunch of people. In that one, he flips the plane upside down, and they begin the movie showing him drinking and doing drugs.
Yeah.
So you know,
and it keeps happening.
So like from the first scene in that movie that he was doing drugs when that thing happened. So in this one, when they're talking about like, have you been drinking? When was your last drink? And they don't go further in that because they're like, so he wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
So it's not. It looks the way the trailers make it look. It makes it look like it's gonna go the way that Flight does. I was gonna say the Flight path. It makes it go the way that the Flight does with accusing him and trying to call into question Sully's sobriety. But since it's a real person, that'd be really messed up to do that in a biopic if there wasn't basis.
Wait, did I was trying to did they actually really call him into question in real life?
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, but
wow.
So yeah, it makes the cool like stand-up in course thing, and where they say how many times did they test it? And, I think that's about all we need to see about that. Like, oh, he served you guys. Like that didn't really happen, but
maybe it did.
But the most important...
It would have been a very valid point, even in real life.
Definitely.
It's like, how many tries did it take them to get this simulation right? And then he remembers, like, oh, they're cutting out this whole, like, 35-second period of time where I've got to figure out what the hell just went wrong.
That's the first thing going through my mind when they're showing the simulation.
Yeah.
And they're like, bird strike, all right, heading to the airport.
Yeah.
Like, wait,
they immediately make the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're like, bird strike. First thought is, oh, crap.
Like, oh, shit.
First, you at least have to have them say, oh, crap. And then it's, contacting the tower. I mean, like, do you have a tower open for me? Because if there's not, like, we've got a ton of planes right here and you can't land there.
Oh, yeah. That's when your first officer pulls out your procedure book.
Well, he's doing the procedures.
Yeah,
at the same time as he's doing
go
that,
through all of it.
Sully's going through and being like, he's like, all right, I'm going to switch on the auxiliary power.
Yeah, it's like, that book isn't going to help me right now.
As they were saying, like, that's way down on the list of things to do.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, already going to do this kind of thing. All right, how can I land here? Like, he's going pretty quickly through his procedures, retrying the engines, but doing this while he, like, trying to do it at the same time. And at the same time, his co-pilot is going through the orders and the checklist and making sure that stuff gets done, logging the thing. And so between the two of them, like, they go as quickly as they can after the bird strike. But it's not the bird strike, let's head over. Like, did you even check to see if you could get your engine started again? They didn't even do that.
Yeah, the test pilots, they didn't go through any of the additional procedures.
Yeah, so it's you can tell from at least those things. But so in the drama of the story, that was definitely good on that. They started to bring in they kept, like, they'd start to started hinting at the drinking thing and then immediately backed off that. They started hinting at family issues at home. Like, is everything okay at home? And he's like, oh, no more than anyone else. And you're like, oh, that's a little shady way of doing that. And he's he's away.
Sounds like a cop out.
They could introduce that, but again, since it's based on a real person, you can't make up these things. Like, you can only fabricate so much before you're like, oh, come on, don't make it sound like I've got these problems that I don't have.
Yeah.
So they couldn't. The most they could do was he was stressing about whether he made the right call, and I think that is a valid thing, no matter who the person is. Like, if you do something like that where it's a risky move, if there's doubt in your mind the whole time, could I have made it back and landed safely and not put them in risk by landing on water?
Yeah. So
that'd be a valid concern, and I think he would just definitely want to know.
The problem with being second guessed like that after the fact, it sets a bad precedent for people going forward who have to make hard judgment calls like that.
Yeah, if he had been fined with that or stripped of his wings and had these things happen to him after the decision for making the decision that saved these people's lives, as they kept bringing up over and over again, like, who died?
It's like,
case closed. Nobody's dead.
Okay, we lost an airplane. We didn't kill anybody.
And they mentioned at one point is the insurance company cares about that. And I'm like, shut up, insurance company. I saved all their lives. You shut up. But yes, it would make every future pilot question.
It was set such a bad precedent that
they're going to try to make it back to the airport and then crash into the buildings.
The next catastrophe that happens, they're going to be second guessing themselves the entire time.
Yeah.
That's what makes it hard. That's why.
But then, I guess to the other point then is if he could have made it back to the airport, and then there's you've got these, and you don't make that public that like he could have made it back and the thing, then you have him like doing this risky maneuver and saying that, everyone just saying, oh, he's a hero, and then the next guy who has something like, oh, engine failure, and instead of even like trying to get back to an airport, he's like, I think I can land on that thing over there.
Let's try the water.
I'm gonna be the next hero on the Hudson. Woo! And then fails horribly.
And it doesn't go very well.
Like, why didn't you go back to the airport? So they've got to. You got to have a balance of these things. The recurring nightmares that he's having of the plane crashing into the buildings too. Yeah. And it begins with the way it begins with showing the what you think is the flight he has the errors happening. And and then it crashes into the building.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not how I remember this.
Like,
I heard they made some changes in the story to the reality, but that's a little drastic. But that's running through his mind as that's as this is happening, as the plane's going through there, he's thinking of all the worst case scenarios that could happen. And
in his case, pretty much everything else would have been a worser case scenario.
So I think the film did a really great job of putting you in that emotional state and making you consider all of the things that could happen, and the respect that he and so many of the other people had for the lives of everyone else there. And then also you've got the way that you put into his shoes of the hero worship that goes through there, where he's still second guessing himself, he's questioning it, but you've got all these people saying, "You're the hero, you're the great thing." He's like,
for most people, if they're suddenly thrust into a position like that, they have a hero's guilt. Like, I'm not really a hero.
Exactly. He's just doing his job flying his plane today, and then suddenly, you're on Letterman
technically
tonight.
It is his job,
thing. You're getting thrust. You're on every television everywhere, and like to be stuck in Times Square at that time too. You're in this like media center, all these TVs, and your face is just everywhere. Like if he had been doing this flight and got stuck in some small town, then it would have been a little easier than just being thrust like you're stuck in New York. New York or LA.
They had the little moments where like people who weren't even on the flight are coming up and saying thank you to him.
Yeah.
Because if you have like 154 other people on this airplane.
Yeah.
And not counting him.
Yeah,
so if you go out, just 1 degree separation outside of that group, and then a 2 degree separation, that could be like thousands of people, even within New York State, who are affected by him saving his passengers.
Yeah. I really loved during the end credits where they were showing.
You see the real people.
The photos and the videos of that, and like they were showing the shots of the rescue and everything. So it's been so long since you've seen that on the news, and then to see that after watching the movie, you're like, they just recreated exactly the boats coming there. I liked the showing all of the other rescue workers going through there and survive, because it's all about timing for every single thing that happened. It's him going down there, and then the ferries see him, and they're able to get out there in time before they're freezing to death on the Hudson there. And the helicopters and everything comes in there in time to rescue them from the sinking plane. And it's just it all worked together so well, and it's a great story of that. It's just it's a great all around story that just makes for an amazing film. Like it had to be done on film at some point. It's that kind of story
it's too good of a story.
Yeah, you can't pass that up as a news story to never put that on film, and that's why we got Flight, which is the loosely based, inspired by the idea of this kind of thing. So that's completely fictionalized, but inspired by this event. That movie wouldn't have happened if this event hadn't happened. They wouldn't have had that idea.
Yeah.
And then you've got this where you have to get down on film. So they could have waited 40 years to make this movie. But while you've got the ability to actually talk to the people involved in the film and get the best account so that you can get the more accurate account of what happened.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's probably the closest that you could get of this story. So I think it's great to put down there. Do you have any other big points about this movie?
Well, I was just about to mention there are 2 flashback scenes to him. One in his very early day.
Yes,
his time as a young man learning to fly a biplane.
Yeah, little crop plane.
Yeah, crop duster.
Yeah. And
then the later one when he was in probably the Naval Air Force, I think.
Well, yeah, he says at one point how long he's been flying planes for.
Yeah.
And
like over 40 years.
Yeah, I forget that.
Pretty much his whole life.
Yeah, so I was calculating it, and for me, I was trying to calculate his age, and I'm like, all right, well, if you learn to fly planes in the military, then and then it flashes back to him even younger than I'm like, okay, so that's how he's that, because I was like, he wasn't that old at the time. So yeah, showing him doing that, I'm like, that map checks out perfectly. But yeah, showing the, it'd be interesting to know if the military plane flying story was true, because it was it quite easily possibly true with so many flights that he does, but you could easily find one flight that he was on where he had the engine's failure and stuff.
Well, with the scene in the military, that I couldn't tell because I was trying to read the call signs on the side of the canopy.
Yeah, it looked like he was the captain on that one.
I thought Sully was the guy in the working plane. He was trying to talk down his wingman.
I thought he was the guy in the plane that was going down.
Yeah, I couldn't be sure because I was trying to read the names.
It was going pretty fast. Yeah. I had thought, and in my recollection at least, whether I'm right or wrong, in my recollection it was Chelsea Sullenberger that it said on the side of it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was on the plane that had engine failure.
But there wasn't one that was close up enough to see the plane that was both wobbling and see the name in enough detail.
Yeah. So either way, it was just showing at least that he had experience with engine failure and planes like that, whether he was flying or talking someone down.
In either case, it still works. My only two thing about those two scenes is maybe not quite enough context to how it fit into the rest of his life.
Yeah, the only other one, when he's first flying the plane, it just shows you, one, his age, and two, that he was told to smile.
Yeah,
that's kind of it. Like, you don't really get a lot.
We don't know if that guy was his dad or just somebody he was working for. No. Whether he was working on this farm and he's now the crop duster for it or something.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because he didn't think of anything, or they couldn't get any information out of it that made a good, like, memorable scene, or the kind of, and you're looking at the rock star biopics, and you have the flashbacks of their home life and like these crucial moments that have impacted their character and made them who they are.
Yeah,
and I think he's just like, he started flying the planes here.
Yeah, okay, that's nice, and he joins the Navy for the hell of it.
It's the Spider-Man, radioactive spider moment, the moment that makes him who he is. Like, that's the moment you're looking for in those childhood flashbacks. And
it's something that just changes their path.
Yeah, and because that moment for him is the landing on the Hudson. Mm-hmm. That's the moment that changed his life forever. Other than that, he's just a guy who learned to fly planes.
A guy who was a pretty decent pilot.
Kept flying planes, continued to fly planes, and then had this one thing happen.
Yeah, that's where they kind of lost the usual elements of a hero story.
So I think that everything that they did in the timeline, the main timeline. So aside from, I think those two flashbacks probably are the weakest thing, just because there's not enough meat to them.
Yeah,
there's not enough reason for them to exist. The fighter pilot.
It's not like they didn't have enough time in the movie, because it was relatively short, right? Yeah. What's the runtime again?
96 minutes.
Yeah, short.
Well, I mean, the flight was even shorter. But that was good. I like the story of the guys rushing onto the plane. Like, I can't miss this plane.
Oh yeah, those three douchebags.
They're not douchebags. They're just golfers.
They're golf-playing douchebags.
They're having a fun time, but they're not rude. They don't paint any of, because they talk to them. They actually have them on video later and actually talk to them. They don't really paint any of the passengers or anyone as bad people.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, come on, we just gonna cool. And they're all like fun, happy people, and they care about each other and everything. But it's the thought of them being like, I need to get on that plane, and then the stuff happens. They're like, oh, why did I have to get on the plane? You don't get that in like it's been a while since I watched United 93, but I just watched World Trade Center, and they don't have the scenes of the people like, I gotta be on this plane, because that'd be too much like, oh no, it's such a, you can't have that moment. You don't want to feel that moment on there. You have the stories of the people who just missed the flight or were late to work and stuff, because those are the stories that you want to hear, but you just don't want to see the ones where like, I don't have to be here now, but
they barely made it on the flight.
Yeah, because that's not...
Oh dear.
Plus, I can't really get those stories, but yeah. So this one, I think I like that you got to see a lot of the. They gave little bits, enough backstory on a couple of the passengers. That was another interesting thing. I think they did enough things that built up that flight, because that's really the entire story is about that flight. You don't need to pad it with everything else and these other incidents that are tangentially related.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good job. Star rating on this one.
You know what? I'll go ahead and give it a 4.
I think so too. Yeah. I was very emotionally involved in the whole film. I cry a lot in movies. I didn't really do that in this movie. There wasn't a big moment for that, but I was still in a point like throughout it where I'm like I'm feeling for the characters involved in it throughout the entire thing. It had me captivated the whole time. It's not a 5-star like amazing thing, but it's a solid, good piece of filmmaking. It's getting closer to Oscar season, and Eastwood's been nominated before, so it wouldn't be surprising if this one was up there.
I would expect at least 1 or 2 nominations for this movie.
Yeah, depending on what else gets released in the last couple months, it has a good potential of getting nominated.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid film on that list. Yeah. Thank you for watching and listening to this. If you've got any feedback you want to give us, either comment on our YouTube videos. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can go to magicapetv.com or youtube.com/magicapetv. Write to us at magicapetv@gmail.com or find us on Facebook. You can always listen to our podcast on iTunes and any other podcasting site thing. And also you can check out Instant Discussions, where we talk about movies that are streaming on Netflix, so some of the older films. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye.